All right, here we go. Let's go view, present. You're on.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody. This is Austin and Ricky. We're going to be doing our Socratic seminar on Chapter 6. And without further ado, let's jump into it.
Just so you know, I'm going to mute myself here, Austin, right away. You're good.
Okay. Next slide. Perfect. Being a little slow on the clicks, probably some internet issues here, but we got some, our general overview today, we're going to be looking at a few different ways to assess and correct assignments. A few of those strategies we'll be looking at are some minimal marking strategies, some collaborative reviews, and then Ricky's going to be taking over and talking about alternative grading, annotating feedback, and then also identifying patterns of error. So with that, my first slide is going to be looking at takeaways and vocabulary. Students need to be actively involved in their own assessment is what we took away from the chapter. I related to this a lot because it just seems like as a teacher, we are spending so much time correcting and grading, and it takes away from planning as well. So with that, let's go over a few terms here. Correction is going to be implying that students respond to your marking by making changes to their work to make it better. You'll see that a few of the strategies that I'll talk about, it is less work on the teacher's end, and it gets students more involved in making their corrections. Looking at the third stage, definition of third stage, students should review and respond to your correction advice, which I will also get into. Utilizing these strategies can create more time for the teacher as well, which we will see very shortly. So looking at some minimal marking makes grading more effective. Looking at partial correction is where teachers are making part of the correction and then the students are doing the rest. So this is one thing I did in 4th grade on the bottom. This strategy is called error flagging. And all it is with an error flag is you are finding some mistakes in the process, perhaps, or maybe some, I call them silly mistakes in 4th grade. So Megan here made a mistake in the problem 80 times 5 because the problem actually wasn't 80 times 5. She wrote it wrong. So I think in the other pictures you'll see in a little bit, you'll see the actual problem. But in there, by just flagging it, it forces the student to go back and relook and actually think, okay, now where did I do this wrong? And I do that just by putting a dot or a slash on that problem. Now, obviously, this takes a little bit of, I wouldn't go much lower than 4th grade with this, because it takes a little bit of responsibility on the student to actually go and find their mistakes. The next one is error counting. And this is where we are breaking apart whatever assessment it is, whether it be a formal or an informal, and we're looking at just the certain parts of the assessment, so parts. So for example, on this problem here, so it's 48 times 5. So with 48 times 5, I was looking at this. There was 2 problems. It was just a quick check-in, check-out. I was looking at the setup of the problems, which we were using the box multiplication method. You know, she set up both of them correct, 2 out of 2. She also multiplied both of them correctly, so 2 out of 2. Now addition, she made, I didn't get it in the picture, but she made a simple mistake in the addition, and I did not mark or tell her what problem was wrong. So she knows that she only needs to look for the addition part of the problem to find her mistake. So again, it just kind of retrains that brain instead of just saying, oh, yeah, this one's wrong, redo it all. This one's wrong, redo it all. It just forces the student to look at that part, which again, makes it a little bit easier on the teacher and it's more effective. Looking at double ticking. A double ticking is something that will show the student that it is something you're looking for or highlighting some successful elements in their work. So a double tick, I like to just do 2 lines like in there and then I just turn it into a smiley face. So I'm sure all of us have some type of praise we give our students, but usually I will put a smiley face on work that is showing kids like, yep, there's something successful here. And if they can get 5 smileys in a row, oftentimes they'll come and show me and I'll be like, yeah, this is why you got the smiley. Your process was right. Something along those lines. Looking at the next form of correction, we have some targeted correction. And this is only focusing on parts of the work to correct. So modeling or model correction is basically when you are correcting part of their work and you're giving students an idea of how to correct the rest of their work. This was not done with the student, it was done after. So basically I found Liam's assignment, looked it over. He had 48 and 40 and 48 is broken up into 4 10s and 8 1s. And then down here, he didn't really break it the right way. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but on the top of the box wasn't exactly how I was looking for, and then, or I should say, the inside of the box. So that's why I corrected it in my black pen there. The next form is student-selected feedback, and this is where beforehand I will tell kids, before we turn it in, I want you to circle an area, and my room is all John Deere, so it's always green. I say circle an area or a problem that you want me to give feedback on. And most of the time, kids will circle the problem that they think they got right, and because they want to get that praise or they want to show me, hey, this is what I know. So this student circled that to show me that, hey, I really know what I'm doing here. Not all the time, but most of the time they will circle something that they're proud of. Looking at the next one, single criterion feedback. This is one where we're just looking at one part. So Emma, I actually did this one with her, and single criterion feedback is meant to be really quick and right to the point. So I saw she was struggling. She didn't even have 48 broken up. So I went right up to her in my pen and I said, yep, here's how we break it up. And then 40 plus 8. And then together we worked on the box method below. All right, and then collaborative review. This is something that I absolutely love to do in 4th grade and when I taught 3rd grade before. But looking at like mid-lesson student examples. And kids get a kick out of it and I make a huge deal of it. But when I see something that I really like and I really want to show kids, I will stop immediately, take their whiteboard, take their work, and we're going to have like a little meeting. We call it circle up. Say, guys, let's circle up and look at this. And we're basically looking and highlighting the student's work to show the rest of the class, like, yeah, look what Johnny did. Look what Jesse did. And they love it, especially when it's a student who maybe doesn't always see those successes. If you can really find something to celebrate there, it's going to make their day. And then a mid-lesson cooperative feedback. This is something new for me that I'm kind of excited to start trying, but students are looking at each other's work and they're communicating on what they did well. So kind of like a mid-lesson student example, but you are letting the students do like a gallery walk almost and go look at each other's work, talk about it, see what they're doing, and then that gives them that time to collaborate as well. And with that, I'm going to let Ricky take over. Thanks for watching.
Awesome job. Well, just so you guys know, I'm going to try to be fast. I'm going to eliminate some examples tonight, just because I know we're trying to do this together, and I know there's a 15-minute limit on Screencast-O-Matic. And I'm also at my daughter's hockey practice because it's the one time I could find time to do it. So we're working some multitasking here. She's right on the ice right down there, so I'll get through this as best I can, as correct as I can. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for we're watching, tuning in. We're doing a little different than most people did. We're just doing back-to-back so we can see each other, talk through it together. But either way, I'm jumping in to alternative grading. One of those things that we're looking for in alternative grading is, we want to grade students to help them reflect their learning. A lot of times they just get it back and they say, oh, I'll just change it and then turn it back in. We want to make them reflect on it. So the first one they talk about is growth scores. And a positive part of what is growth score? Growth score is, maybe they get a test and they get a 10 out of 20 the first time. The next time they take it, they get a 15 out of 20. Well, their growth score has been 15 by 5 points, excuse me. So there's a pre-test versus protest, and they've kind of said, hey, all right, here's how I can improve, or here's how much I have improved. The positive, it rewards students. The negative, it's a great idea, but sometimes it's not in the real world. You don't get the second chance, but sometimes it does. But it concentrates on the student's own improvement. The second one we talked about, or we're learning about, is group marking, where the whole class might receive a grade. It's one of those things, hey, everyone's getting an A for the day, right? We throw that sometimes out there. Great job, everybody, you get an A for the day. But sometimes you want to use it sparingly. Sometimes you throw it out there. It's just an opportunity for kids. That's something different. And it breaks up assessment a little bit. Hey, if we can all answer this together and be on the right page, we all hear the same answers, we can all get the same grade, and then guess what? It's a collective responsibility for all. So it's one of those things that can be super effective every once in a while. Another one we talk about is rewarding revised responses, acting upon feedback. So like we're trying to figure out how That student gets to utilize their feedback based on what they did or performed. So if they have a two-part, they do a rough draft of a assignment, then they do a final draft of the first part they get 50% of their grade. The second part they get the rest of the 50% of the grade. So like you said, they get 8 out of 10 on the first one, and then 10 out of 10 on the next one, and go from there. But the positive, kids are able to act on their feedback instead of just leaving it. They just don't get to just turn it in once and say, I'll just keep it that way. It's one of those things they work on partly of it, and then the second part of it. Negative, people like to say it's unfair, or the game, which is used in both these opportunities, was like the game of like, I'll just not do really good on this, and then I'll do a really good job on the second one, or I'll do really good on the first one, and then not have to do the second part of it. It's one of those things they gamesmanship type thing. But either way, it's one of the negatives there. And the second chance marking table, which I have here on page 181, right on my book here in front of me. I know it's again kind of small, like Kiana said in her speech. It's kind of hard to read, but it's one of those marking tables that that the second chance marking is, hey, you give kids a chance to mark, and then they purposely underperform, and then and then all of a sudden the second chance they perform great, and you're like, whoa, that was awesome, great improvement. Well, when they're just doing it purpose, they're again playing the game, and they get away with it. That's that's one of those things they try to do. We want them to understand that we want to focus on both attempts as they're turning them in. So those are some alternative grading pieces that we can use, or alternative ways to assess. Oops, I got to click on the actual thing here. There we go. Another one is the focus questions part of it. And this has 3 parts to it. We grade students, again, to help reflect their learning, like I talked about before in alternative grading, but there's a 3-part scenario they talk about when they say, hey, let's get some focus questions reflect. They want to identify the key issues. They want to formulate a question for each of the issue, and then they want to dedicate time to answer. Those 3 things are another way to assess in a different manner that gets kids involved. And that could be all the way K-12 as well as things is reflecting and speaking out loud is a big benefit to that. Next part we jump into is annotating feedback, which is it requires students to take action to make feedback more visible. We want them to take their own action for their own own work. So we talk about annotating feedback. The first one is an oral feedback stamp. An oral feedback stamp is one of those things that we want students to improve their work. Sorry, I'm looking up my notes here a little bit too now. And we want them to understand that, hey, you're responsible for what this looks like. It's super important that, hey, you vocalize what you see. You see a grade, you vocalize what you saw from the mistake. The second piece is a color highlighting. You say, hey, you get a highlighter or some sort of tool. If it's technology, you go to the app part or that part of the technology where you can highlight stuff or underline stuff, and you learn from your feedback, and you underline some of those things that people might have done for you. It could be uber important there as well. The last one is the feedback code they talked about, where students annotate their own feedback. So like this one might be a received from a peer partner, so they put PP for that, or a self-assessment. They self-assess the work, they put SA. Another one, the whole class review, they put WC based on whatever they do, and that's some different ways that they can annotate feedback based on some sort of code, whether they do it individually, in a partner, in a group, or whole class type thing. And again, it's right here on I thought there's a big part at the bottom. It says important annotation can be used as a wider plan to implement grading strategies. It's a great opportunity for us as teachers to use use these types of feedback in grading assessments. Last piece is identifying patterns for error. I want to make sure I try to get all this in, so I'm speaking a little faster. I'm sorry. Error cluster. It's one of those things that we're trying to get kids to understand. When it comes to error clusters, it says right here, students receive corrected work in a table of errors. So error clusters, they encourage your students to view these errors not as a large number of unrelated individual errors, but as a small number of types of errors. That's what they're trying to get with that pattern. Either way, I want to get to this part, so let's go to the next part. Socratic Seminar questions. Austin and I put together 3 questions that you're going to be sent a link to. You're each going to have we did some cool colors. I don't know what it looks like, or I know what it looks like, but I don't know what it looks like to you guys. It might not be super cool or techie, but we're trying. Either way, first question, how much time do you spend correcting on your own personal time? What did you take away from today that might have helped you with that? Second question, based on your presentation, how can you make your own or your corrections more meaningful and effective? And then number 3, give an example in your class of how you would utilize third stage correction and what assessment tool it is. For that's for tonight. You'll see that as the second part of it. So please check in on that. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful evening. And thanks so much for tuning in to Austin and myself. And again, there is, you can click on this. We'll send this PowerPoint out so you'll be able to click on that as well. Otherwise, they'll be in the discussions portion of our activity. Anything else, Austin?
Then we should be good.
Awesome. Have a great night and a great week, everybody.
Thanks, Jazz.